3 months after my wife told me to shut up and not interfere with her buying our dream home, I was standing knee-deep in dirty water in a flooded basement. Amanda stared at the crack that ran from floor to ceiling in the wall and screamed, "Why didn't you stop me?" I looked at her and replied, "I tried, but you told me to shut up and listen to you." Everyone in that basement remembered exactly what happened 3 months ago, especially me. So let me back up. Because this story didn't begin with a flooded basement. It began with a townhouse, a perfectly ordinary townhouse that had one enormous flaw. It wasn't impressive enough for Instagram. Until recently, I honestly believed we were doing pretty well. I was 43, managed the technical department for a manufacturing company, made decent money. Amanda worked in marketing. If you've ever met someone who could turn brunch into a networking opportunity, you've met Amanda. We'd been married for 11 years, no kids, a comfortable townhouse, the mortgage was almost paid off, 2 reliable cars, healthy savings, no credit card debt. Honestly, we were living what most people would call a pretty good life, which apparently was the problem. Amanda had developed a fascinating hobby, comparing our lives to everyone else's. Every weekend, there was a new update. Did you see that the Johnsons bought a house with a pool? Melissa's new kitchen is twice the size of ours. Eric and Julia moved into the Maple Ridge district. Look at this patio. Look at this backyard. Look at these ceilings. At one point, I genuinely believed my wife spent more time inside Zillow than inside our actual home. Our townhouse wasn't glamorous, but it worked. Nothing leaked. Nothing cracked. Nothing smelled suspicious after rain. In hindsight, those were incredibly underrated features. I'd walk downstairs every morning, make coffee, and appreciate the fact that every wall remained exactly where I had left it the night before. Never take structural integrity for granted. Life teaches strange lessons. Amanda saw things differently. This place is getting too small. That's because you keep ordering decorative pillows. She wanted everything. A huge kitchen, vaulted ceilings, a dedicated home office, a guest bedroom, a finished basement, a massive backyard, a 2-car garage, preferably in one of those neighborhoods where every mailbox looks like it has its own retirement account. I wasn't against moving. I just wanted to buy something we could comfortably afford. My philosophy was simple. If one of us lost our job tomorrow, we should still be able to sleep at night. Amanda's philosophy was also simple. If we wait forever, we'll never live. It's amazing how often people use that sentence right before making an expensive mistake. For months we toured houses. Some were too expensive, some needed work, some were beautiful, but financially terrifying. Every time I suggested caution, Amanda sighed like I'd personally canceled Christmas. Then one Thursday evening, she burst through the front door practically vibrating with excitement. I found it. I didn't even ask what it was. I already knew. The house. Of course. The house. The one that would finally prove to the universe, and more importantly to her friends, that we'd officially made it. She shoved her phone into my hands. The pictures looked incredible. Fresh paint, beautiful kitchen, stone fireplace, large wooden deck, finished basement, huge backyard. Exactly the neighborhood she'd been obsessing over for months. Then I looked at the price. What? Why is it cheaper than every other house around it? Amanda rolled her eyes. Maybe we finally got lucky. Maybe. Or maybe I'd watched enough home renovation shows to know that when something costs $50,000 less than everything around it, someone usually knows something you don't. I had no idea how right that thought would turn out to be. That Saturday we met our realtor, Claire Bennett. Claire had the energy of someone who could sell sunscreen during a solar eclipse. "This one won't stay on the market long," she said before we even reached the front door. Of course it wouldn't. According to realtors, every house disappears tomorrow unless you buy it today. The place looked fantastic. Fresh exterior paint, a gorgeous kitchen with brand new appliances, hardwood floors, a large deck overlooking the backyard, a finished basement. Amanda was sold before we even finished the first floor. "Oh my God, this is it." Claire smiled. I had a feeling you'd say that. The seller, Richard Cole, greeted us inside. He explained he had accepted a job in another state and needed to move within weeks. That's why we're pricing it aggressively. There it was. The magical explanation for every suspiciously cheap house. Urgency. As we walked through the basement, something caught my attention. It smelled damp. Not terrible. Just enough to make me wonder why. One wall had obviously been painted much more recently than the others. Near the foundation outside, I noticed fresh dirt. Part of the laminate floor had a slight ripple. In one corner sat a heavy-duty dehumidifier. The sump pump wasn't even plugged in. Outside, the downspouts emptied almost against the foundation. None of those things alone proved anything. Together, they made me uncomfortable. I asked Richard why only one basement wall had been repainted. "Oh, just freshened it up." "Any paperwork on the recent repairs?" "I'd have to look." He never looked. Amanda sighed loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Daniel, I'm just asking." Claire stepped in immediately. "We already have several inquiries. One family is scheduling another viewing tomorrow." There it was again. Pressure. Amanda squeezed my arm. "I told you this house wouldn't last." Maybe. Or maybe there was another reason nobody had bought it yet. Amanda insisted we come back the next day. This time she invited her parents. If Amanda wanted validation, Robert and Susan were basically a subscription service. The second we pulled into the driveway, Susan clasped her hands together. "Oh, Amanda. It's even prettier in person." We hadn't even reached the front porch. Inside, Amanda gave them a complete tour. "This will be the living room. This is the office. Look at this kitchen." Susan was already picturing Thanksgiving dinners. Robert was measuring imaginary television sizes with his hands. "You could fit an 85-inch TV on that wall." He hadn't even asked if we wanted one. The finished basement impressed them the most. Robert whistled. "This is where I'd watch football." Susan opened the guest bedroom door. "Oh, this will be our room whenever we visit." Interesting. Apparently they'd already moved in. Amanda looked happier than I'd seen her in months. "You see? Everyone loves it." I kept walking around the basement. The smell was still there. Not overwhelming. Just damp enough that someone who'd spent years working construction with his father couldn't ignore it. I looked closer at the freshly painted wall. Still too fresh. Outside one of the basement windows, I noticed the same pile of new soil near the foundation. The sump pump was still unplugged. The dehumidifier was still running. None of it felt right. I walked back upstairs. "I think we should have the house inspected before we make an offer." The room went quiet for about 2 seconds. Then Robert laughed. "Oh, Dan, that tone. The one adults use when a 5-year-old says the moon follows the car." "Sometimes a good deal is just a good deal," he said. "You don't have to hunt for a disaster behind every wall." "I'm not hunting, I'm checking." "It's a beautiful house." "It probably is. So what's the problem?" "I don't know yet." Robert spread his arms. "Exactly." Amanda folded hers. "This is why we're still living in that townhouse." I looked at her. "What does that mean?" "It means every single house has some reason you don't like it." "I've never said I don't like this one." "No, you just keep looking for reasons to walk away." "I keep looking for reasons not to regret spending hundreds of thousands of dollars." Susan stepped in gently. "Daniel, sweetheart, sometimes you have to trust your instincts." "I do," Amanda smiled. "Mine say we should buy it. Mine were saying something completely different. Years ago, my dad had taught me something while we were repairing an old house. Fresh paint doesn't worry me. Fresh paint on only one wall does." Standing in that basement, I kept hearing his voice. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe the seller had really just decided one random wall deserved a makeover. I wasn't trying to kill Amanda's dream. I just wanted someone qualified to tell us whether the dream came with a collapsing foundation. I pulled out my phone. "I want Mike to see the house." Amanda sighed so loudly I thought the foundation might crack from that instead. My inspector friend? He's a licensed home inspector. Robert chuckled. Still not letting this go? No. I sent Mike a text. You busy tomorrow afternoon? Need you to look at a house. Something feels off. His reply came less than a minute later. Sure, I'll be there. Mike arrived the following afternoon wearing jeans, work boots, and carrying nothing but a flashlight. He'd been inspecting houses for almost 20 years. If something was wrong, he usually knew before the homeowners did. Claire greeted him with an obviously fake smile. Oh, you brought an inspector? Just a friend, I said. Mike smiled. I'll only be a few minutes. He wasn't. Within 30 seconds of entering the basement, he crouched beside the freshly painted wall. He ran his hand along it. Then he pulled a small flashlight from his pocket. He didn't say anything. That worried me more than if he had. He walked outside, looked at the grating around the foundation, checked the downspouts, came back inside, studied the floor, looked at the sump pump, knelt beside one corner where the baseboard met the concrete. Finally, he stood up and quietly motioned for me to step aside. We walked a few feet away. So? Mike lowered his voice. I don't like this. What did you find? Horizontal crack under fresh paint. I felt my stomach tighten. Old watermarks behind the baseboards. What else? The drainage around the foundation is wrong. He pointed toward the backyard. The soil near that wall has settled. I nodded. I noticed that. The sump pump looks brand new. And? The basement doesn't. He looked back toward the painted wall. I'd bet money they've repaired foundation damage before. Can you prove it? Not without a proper inspection. He looked me straight in the eye. Don't sign anything until someone performs a full structural inspection. Foundation, drainage, everything. That's serious? It could be nothing. He paused. It could also cost you $50,000, maybe $100,000. That was all I needed to hear. I walked back toward Amanda. We need a full inspection before we make any offer. Before she could answer, Claire's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen. Oh, perfect timing. She looked up. I just got a message. She gave us an apologetic smile. The other family is preparing an offer this afternoon. Amanda immediately turned toward me. Daniel. I ignored her and looked at Claire. Can the seller give us 48 hours for an inspection? Claire hesitated just long enough to make it dramatic. I honestly don't think he'll wait. Amanda grabbed my arm. We're losing the house. We're asking for 2 days. We don't have 2 days. We have enough time to make a smart decision. She let go of my arm. You always do this. I want the house inspected. You want another excuse. I want to know if the foundation is falling apart. Robert stepped beside Amanda. Dan, sometimes you have to stop overthinking. Mike folded his arms but stayed quiet. He'd already said everything that mattered. Amanda's face turned red. People were watching. Claire, Richard, Mike, her parents. Then she snapped, "Shut up and listen to me!" The room went silent. I'm sick of losing opportunities because you're afraid of everything, she said loudly. You don't know anything about real estate. I made the decision. We're buying this house. Nobody moved. Even Claire suddenly found the floor fascinating. Robert broke the silence. Sometimes a man needs to stop being afraid and trust his wife. I looked at Amanda. She expected an argument. Instead, I simply nodded. Okay. She blinked. I'll be quiet. Another pause. But if I stay quiet... I looked around the room. Then this is your decision. I met Amanda's eyes. And your responsibility. She smiled. She thought she'd won. Mike looked at me with an expression that said exactly what I was thinking. This isn't over. Amanda acted like the deal was already done. So we'll make the offer tonight. Not yet. Her smile disappeared. What now? I'll make an offer after we do 5 things. She folded her arms. Seriously? First, a full structural inspection. She sighed. Second, We verify the repair history. No response. Third, we request any insurance claims on the property. Claire shifted uncomfortably. Fourth, we talk to the neighbors. Robert laughed. The neighbors? Yes. And fifth, I continued, the contract includes an inspection contingency. If major problems are found, we walk away. Amanda looked at Claire. Claire gave her a sympathetic smile. I understand why Daniel wants that. Then came the but. But in this market, offers with inspection contingencies are much less attractive. Of course they were. Claire turned to Amanda. If you really want this house, a clean offer gives you the best chance. Mike looked at me. I could almost hear him thinking, don't do it. I looked at Amanda. I'm not signing a contract without an inspection. She stared at me for several seconds. Fine. Her voice became strangely calm. I'll buy it myself. I actually laughed. You don't have enough for the down payment? My parents will help. Robert nodded immediately. We absolutely will. Susan smiled. We want Amanda to have the home she deserves. Amanda looked back at me. I don't need your permission. I never said you did. I don't need your money either. Good. That answer caught her off guard. She expected a fight. Instead, I simply nodded. If you're determined to do this, I'm not stopping you. Claire quickly started explaining the financing. Amanda would use her share of our savings. Her parents would cover the rest of the down payment. The mortgage would be based primarily on her income. Everything suddenly became very real. Claire placed the purchase agreement in front of me. I just need your signature here. I pushed it back. No, Amanda frowned. What are you doing? I'm refusing to sign an offer that waives the inspection. You promised not to interfere. I'm not interfering. I looked directly at her. I'm refusing to participate. The room became quiet again. Claire awkwardly gathered the papers. There are other ways to structure the purchase. Then that's what we'll do, Amanda said. Before we left, I sent Amanda a text. Please order a full foundation and drainage inspection before closing. A minute later, she replied, I'm buying the house. It's my decision. You promised not to get in my way. I saved the message. Then I texted Mike. Thanks for coming. His reply was immediate. I hope I'm wrong. I stared at the screen for a long moment. So did I. For the first few weeks, Amanda looked like she'd won the lottery. Every other day she posted another picture. The kitchen, the fireplace, the backyard, the deck, the home office, the finished basement. Comments poured in. Dream home? So jealous. You guys made it. Amanda read every single one. Then she announced we were having a housewarming party. Nearly 30 people showed up. Friends, co-workers, neighbors. Her parents naturally arrived first. Robert walked around with a beer like he'd built the place himself. Told you this was the right move. Amanda was giving tours all evening. And this is the basement. This is my office. I can't believe we almost didn't buy it. Someone asked why. Amanda laughed. Oh, because Daniel was convinced the house was hiding some giant disaster. Everyone looked at me. She grinned. I literally had to tell him, shut up and listen to me. The room burst into laughter. Robert raised his bottle. If Amanda had listened to him, they'd still be stuck in that tiny townhouse. More laughter. I smiled politely. No point arguing. People almost always side with whoever's holding the wine glass. Besides, reality was patient. Later that evening, I slipped downstairs alone. The basement looked perfect. Too perfect. Then I heard it. The sump pump. Running. I checked my watch. It kept running. 30 seconds. 40. Almost a full minute. There hadn't been rain in 4 days. I walked over and touched the discharge pipe. It was vibrating. Working hard. Too hard. I looked around. One corner of the wall felt cool. There was the faintest dark stain near the baseboard. Barely noticeable. I took a picture. Then another. I photographed the sump pump. The wall. The floor. The date and time on my phone, old construction habit, document first, talk later. When I came upstairs, Amanda was laughing with her friends. "Where were you?" "Basement." She rolled her eyes. "Still investigating?" "No." "What then?" "Just looking." She smiled. "See? Nothing happened." I looked toward the basement door. No, not yet. The first month passed without any major problems. Amanda acted like the case was closed. "See? You worried over nothing." "I hope you're right." "I am." Then the first heavy rain came. The next morning, I walked into the basement. There was a thin line of water along one wall. Not much, just enough to soak a few cardboard boxes. "Amanda," she came downstairs. "It's just a little water. It shouldn't be here at all. It's an older house, Daniel." "No, a finished basement should stay dry." She grabbed a towel and wiped it up. "There, problem solved." It wasn't. A week later, the laminate floor started lifting near the same wall. Then came the smell. That damp, musty smell you never forget once you've worked around mold. Amanda bought scented candles, then an air freshener, then another dehumidifier. Apparently lavender was supposed to defeat water damage. A few days later, I noticed a thin crack above the basement window. It hadn't been there before. Or maybe it had been hidden under fresh paint. I took another picture, then another. Every few days I photographed the same wall. The crack kept growing. Outside, the backyard stayed wet long after every rain. The ground near the foundation turned into mud. The sump pump now ran almost constantly. Then another problem appeared. The upstairs bedroom developed a yellow stain on one corner of the ceiling. A week later, one of the bedroom doors wouldn't close properly. Then another. The foundation was moving. I finally said what I'd been thinking for weeks. "We need to call a structural engineer." Amanda didn't even look up from her laptop. "No. Amanda." She slammed it shut. "I know exactly what you're doing." "What am I doing?" "You're enjoying this." I laughed. "Enjoying what?" "Trying to prove you were right." I stared at her. "You think I'm happy our house is falling apart? You've wanted this from the beginning." "No. I knew you'd never let this go. I wanted an inspection. I don't want another lecture. I want someone to tell us what's wrong before it gets worse." "It isn't getting worse." I looked toward the basement. The crack was almost twice as long as when I'd first photographed it. "It is." She crossed her arms. "I'm not spending thousands of dollars because you're paranoid." Instead, she hired a handyman. He painted over the crack, moved a large storage cabinet in front of that section of the wall, installed the new dehumidifier, collected his check. Amanda smiled. "See? Fixed." I didn't answer, because paint has an amazing ability. It covers walls, not problems. 3 months after we moved in, the forecast called for the biggest storm of the season. By midnight, it sounded like someone was dumping buckets of water onto the roof. I woke up around 2 in the morning, not because of the rain, because the house suddenly became quiet. The power had gone out. A few seconds later, I heard Amanda. "Daniel." Then came a sound I'll never forget. Splash. Not outside. Inside. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. The basement stairs already had water on the bottom steps. Oh no. I ran downstairs. Every step sank deeper. An inch, then 3, then 6. By the time I reached the floor, freezing brown water was almost up to my knees. Furniture floated across the room. Amanda's expensive standing desk had tipped over. The new TV was lying face down in the water. Boxes of family photos had burst open. Albums floated past me like tiny boats. The washer and dryer were half submerged. Amanda stood on the stairs in complete shock. My office. Water kept pouring through the foundation wall. Not dripping, pouring. I grabbed my phone and called emergency services. Then I checked the sump pump. Dead. No electricity. Without the pump, groundwater had nowhere to go. It simply came inside. About 40 minutes later, emergency restoration crews arrived with generators and industrial pumps. One of the technicians walked straight to the cracked wall. He didn't even seem surprised. He shined his flashlight across the concrete. Then he slowly shook his head. "How old is this problem?" Amanda looked confused. "What problem?" He pointed at the wall. "This one. We just noticed the crack." He crouched down. "No." He scraped away a small piece of paint with a putty knife. Underneath was old patching compound, several layers of it. He sighed. "This foundation has been leaking for years." Nobody spoke. He continued examining the basement. "The exterior drainage has failed." He pointed outside. "The grating sends water toward the house instead of away from it." Then he looked at the sump pit. Brand new pump. His flashlight moved back to the wall. "Temporary cosmetic repairs." He stood up. "I'd bet this wall was freshly painted before the house was listed." I felt Mike looking at me. The technician wasn't finished. "A proper repair?" He shrugged. "New drainage system, foundation repair, waterproofing." He paused. "You're looking at tens of thousands of dollars." Amanda slowly turned toward me. Her face had gone completely pale. "Why didn't you tell me it could be this bad?" I just stared at her. "I did." "No." "I asked for a foundation inspection." Silence. "I asked for a drainage inspection." She didn't answer. "I asked Mike to look at the house." Her breathing became faster. Then she almost shouted, "You should have stopped me." I looked at her for a long second. Then I quietly said the words everyone in that basement remembered. "I tried. You told me to shut up and listen to you." Nobody said another word. The next morning, the house looked like a disaster zone. Industrial fans screamed in every room. Dehumidifiers were running non-stop. Half our belongings were stacked in the driveway. The basement smelled like wet drywall and regret. Around 10 o'clock, Amanda's parents arrived. Robert took one look at the damage and muttered, "My God." For about 30 seconds, nobody spoke. Then, somehow, "This became my fault." Robert turned to me. "You're her husband. You should have stopped her." I actually blinked. "I'm sorry." "What?" "You knew something was wrong." "I suspected something." "So why didn't you stop the purchase?" I stared at him. "Do you remember standing in this house 3 months ago?" He didn't answer. "You called me afraid." Silence. "You laughed when I asked for an inspection." Still nothing. Amanda finally spoke. "Dad." But Robert kept going. "You should have insisted." I slowly pulled out my phone. "Fine." I opened our text messages. There. I handed him the phone. The first message. "Please order a full foundation and drainage inspection before closing." The next. "I don't think we should waive the inspection contingency." Another. "Mike believes there may be serious foundation issues." Then Amanda's reply. "I'm buying the house. It's my decision. You promised not to get in my way." Robert kept scrolling. Photos, the damp wall, the sump pump, the crack, dates, timestamps, everything. I took the phone back. "When I tried to stop the deal, you called me a coward." Nobody said a word. "You told me to trust my wife." Silence. "You applauded when she told me to shut up." Robert looked away. "And now you're angry because I didn't force a 40-year-old woman to do something she had already refused to do?" Susan quietly sat down. Amanda rubbed her face with both hands. She couldn't finish. Instead, she started naming people. "The seller lied. Claire pressured us. The bank should have caught this. The appraiser missed it. The insurance company is useless. My parents encouraged me." Then she looked at me. "You should have done more." I couldn't help smiling. Not because any of this was funny, because it was predictable. I looked around the room. "You know what's interesting?" Nobody answered. "Everyone in this room has been blamed today." I paused. "Except the one person who actually made the decision." Amanda looked down at the floor. For the first time since all this started, she had absolutely nothing to say. Mike came back the following morning. This time he wasn't doing a quick walkthrough. He was documenting everything. For nearly 3 hours he inspected every inch of the basement. When he finally came upstairs, he dropped a thick folder onto the kitchen table. This wasn't one leak. Amanda looked up. "What do you mean?" Mike opened the report. "The basement has flooded multiple times." He flipped to the first photo. "See these water lines behind the drywall? They're old." Another page. "The foundation was patched before." Another. "Mold behind the finished wall." Another. "Old mounting holes." Amanda frowned. "What are those?" "Sump pumps." There was another pump. There were several over the years. The room went quiet. Mike kept turning pages. The repairs were cosmetic. Fresh paint, cheap sealant, new wall panels. They covered the symptoms. They never fixed the problem. Amanda buried her face in her hands. I looked at Mike. "Can you prove it?" He nodded. "Most of it." That afternoon, I walked across the street and knocked on a neighbor's door. An older man answered. "I'm Daniel. We just bought the house." His expression changed immediately. "Oh, not exactly the reaction every homeowner hopes for." "I wanted to ask if you've ever noticed drainage problems around here." He laughed. "You mean besides last spring?" "What happened?" "There were industrial pumps outside that house for 3 days." My stomach tightened. They pumped water out of the basement almost non-stop. "When was this?" "About a year ago." He scratched his chin. "Thought everyone knew." Apparently not everyone. I thanked him and walked to the next house. The woman who answered didn't even let me finish. "You're talking about the flooding, aren't you?" "Yes." She nodded. "The previous buyers backed out." "What previous buyers?" "The family before you. They had an inspection." "And?" "They walked away." I felt my pulse speed up. "Do you know who they were?" "As a matter of fact," she smiled. "They're friends of my sister." 2 days later, I was sitting in a coffee shop with that couple. They slid a folder across the table. "Our inspection report." I opened it. Every page made me sicker. Foundation movement, water intrusion, failed exterior drainage, evidence of previous flooding, possible mold. Recommendation: do not purchase without major repairs. I looked up. "So why didn't you buy it?" The husband laughed. "Because we weren't insane." "Fair enough." I took the report home. Mike compared it with his findings. They match almost perfectly. There was only one question left. If this report existed, I looked at Amanda. How did we never hear about it? Amanda slowly turned toward Claire's business card lying on the table. Mike answered before she could. Because someone already knew exactly why that first deal fell apart. Amanda whispered. And she still told us another family was ready to make an offer. Mike nodded. I'd be very surprised if that family ever existed. For the first time since this nightmare began, Amanda wasn't looking for someone to argue with. She was looking for a lawyer. The lawyer confirmed what Mike had already suspected. We had a strong case against the seller, possibly against Claire too. But lawsuits have one annoying habit. They don't pay next month's mortgage. The estimates started coming in. Foundation stabilization, exterior excavation, a new drainage system, waterproofing, mold remediation, drywall, flooring, electrical repairs. Every contractor handed us another number with one more zero than the last. Amanda stopped opening the emails. Instead, she started looking at me. One evening, she sat across from me at the kitchen table. We need to use your savings. I looked up from my coffee. My savings? Your reserve fund. The one I didn't use because I didn't buy this house? She frowned. We're a family. You can't just sit there while we lose the house. I leaned back. You're asking me to pay for a decision you made after publicly humiliating me for trying to stop it? She looked away. You'd really let us lose everything? I shook my head. No. Her face softened. I won't let you lose everything. She blinked. I'll help however I can with the lawsuit. I'll hand over every message, every photo, every document. I'll testify if I have to, but I'm not putting my life savings into repairing a house I warned you not to buy." Her expression hardened again. A real husband wouldn't let his wife make a mistake this big. I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was unbelievable. A real husband? Yes. I set my coffee down. "For years you've interrupted me." She stayed silent. "You've mocked me in front of your friends." "Nothing. You've let your parents treat me like a child. You've called caution weakness." Her eyes filled with tears. "You've made decisions alone, and every time those decisions went wrong." I looked directly at her. "You handed me the bill," she whispered. "I said I was sorry." "No." I shook my head. "You said you were sorry, but you also said I should have stopped you." She didn't answer. "Do you see the difference?" Silence. "You're still trying to split the responsibility." She covered her face. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. Finally, I stood up. "I'm going back to the townhouse." She looked up immediately. "For a few days?" I picked up my car keys. "I don't think so." She understood before I said another word. For the first time since we'd met, Amanda looked genuinely afraid. Not of the house, not of the lawsuit, of losing the one person she'd always assumed would stay and clean up the mess. I drove back to our old townhouse. We hadn't sold it yet. The place felt strangely peaceful. No arguments, no accusations. No one telling me that caution was cowardice. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. Amanda called the next morning. "Are you coming home?" "I don't know." "You can't stay there forever." "I need time." Over the next few days, she called constantly. Sometimes she cried. Sometimes she apologized. Sometimes she got angry. Sometimes all three happened during the same phone call. But every conversation eventually circled back to the same sentence. "I made a mistake, but you could have handled it differently." That was the moment I realized nothing had really changed. Even in her apology, she was still trying to divide the responsibility. A few days later, I met with a divorce attorney. After hearing everything and reading the messages I'd saved, he simply nodded. "You've documented this well." A week later, I filed for divorce. Amanda called the moment she was served. "I can't believe you're doing this." "I can." During the divorce, the paperwork mattered. The house had been purchased mostly with Amanda's money, her parents' money, and a mortgage based primarily on her income. My written objections and saved messages protected most of my remaining savings. Amanda kept the house. She also kept the mortgage and the lawsuit. Her parents had to help pay for emergency repairs because they'd invested in the purchase too. Robert even sold his expensive SUV to help cover the foundation work. Amanda moved back in with her parents after mold was found throughout the basement. The perfect house disappeared from her social media. Eventually, people learned the truth. One friend asked her, "Didn't Daniel warn you about the basement?" Amanda quietly answered, "He did. I told him to shut up." The lawsuit ended in a settlement. Amanda received some compensation. It covered part of the repairs and legal fees. Nothing more. She eventually sold the house at a major loss. A year later, I bought another home. Nothing fancy. 2 bedrooms, a small yard, an old but completely dry basement. Before signing anything, I ordered a full inspection. Foundation, roof, sewer, drainage, repair history, everything. When the inspector finished, he smiled. "You always this careful?" I smiled back. "No, I just stopped listening to people who told me to shut up." That house would never impress Amanda's friends. It would never get thousands of likes online. But every wall was dry, and for the first time in years, so was my peace of mind. If you felt this story hit hard, drop a like, subscribe for more, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support keeps Steelheart beating.